If you find yourself wanting to punch someone in the face, you're going to want to remember these three essential tips from the lawyer before you do so. I'm Joe McVicious, and I'm here to teach you how to avoid a criminal conviction after you kick someone's ass. Because you're likely to be intoxicated when you have the desire to kick someone's ass, I'm going to make it easy for you to remember because it is very important. We're going to call it the CPR method of kicking someone's ass. You want consent, you want proof, and you want to show restraint. So, first, you need consent. What you want is for the other person to show either verbally or physically that they're consenting to that fight. How do you do that? You talk a whole lot of shit. Hey, I'm going to kick your ass. Well, I'd like to see you try. Well, as soon as you got the I like to see you try, you've now beat the battery charges to come because that's the crime that you end up getting charged with after you kick someone's ass is battery. Battery, the prosecutor has to prove two things and only two things. They have to prove that you touched the person, well, they've got that, and they have to prove that it was against their will. So as soon as you got them to say, I'd like to see you try, they've consented to the touching, and there's no longer a battery. What you can't do is just roll up on somebody and cold cock them when they didn't even get a chance to know it was coming. Now, at least factually, you've committed a battery. The second thing that you need is proof, right? You need some way to show that this person consented. Otherwise, it's your word against theirs. And while that's still a pretty hard case for the prosecutor, it's much better. And in order to make this thing um, foolproof, you want to make sure that you've got some way to document that they consented to the fight. And so you want to either have one person that one witness for you to be there, or you want to make sure it's on video. What you don't want is there to be just a group of that person's friends there so that later they can say that the person didn't consent to getting their ass whooped. Okay, that's what you don't want. And the only thing I would say about number two and the fact that you want proof is that you need to be careful not to do this in a terribly public place because you run the risk of being charged with an affray, which is a different crime where they would charge both people. And that crime is essentially for fighting in public. So you want it to be a reasonably private place, but you want there to be some way to prove that the person consented to the fight. And then the third thing that you need is you need to show some restraint. And essentially, this is just showing human decency. You don't want to be Cobra Kai. Right? You don't want to strike first. Ideally, you talk enough shit to where they strike first, and then you also have a self-defense claim. And there's no argument as to whether or not they consented to being touched in that situation. And you also, you want to have mercy. You don't want to be, you can't be in a situation where you beat the person's ass so bad that they're on the ground, they can't even get up, and you throw a final blow. Now there's going to be some issues as to whether or not they consented to that last blow, at least. Ultimately, this goes in front of a jury, and you're just talking about what's the jury going to see as excessive, and a lot of times they'll convict if they think that you really crossed the line. And so those are the three things. You need to make sure they show verbal or physical consent. You want to make sure you've got proof that they showed that consent, and you can't cross the line. I'm Joe McVicious. I hope you found this helpful. Not that I condone you kicking anyone's ass, but if you do, please remember my CPR method: consent, proof, restraint before you do so that when the person calls the cops afterwards and you get arrested for battery, if that happens, you're not going to end up with a conviction at the end. Have a nice day.